Welcome to the Diversity Connector podcast, where we explore the rich tapestry of human experiences. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country on which we meet today. I would also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging, and together as we dive into conversations that bridge cultures, challenge stereotypes, and celebrate the unique perspectives each of us brings to the table. Each episode is a journey through stories and insights from a kaleidoscope of voices, each sharing their colorful narrative. Whether you're at home, on the go, or just anywhere in between, you're now part of a community that values understanding, inclusivity, and the beauty of diversity. So plug in your headphones, get comfortable, and let's connect through the power of our shared stories. Welcome, and thank you for joining us on the Diversity Connector podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today we are graced with the presence of yet another fascinating young woman. Welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hi, my name is Nowshin Chowdhury, and I'm currently based at Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and it's so great to be on this show. I am a woman who wears many hats. I am a girl of extremes, so I will start with my primary identity. That is, I'm a human being in this vastly, largely amazing place called the world. And then I come from a country that is far down in Southeast Asia. It's called Bangladesh, where I spent most of my childhood and my life. I am currently working as a research consultant at Diversity Institute in Toronto Metropolitan University. Other than that, I am also serving as the local president of Junior Chamber International Toronto chapter in Canada. Other than that, I'm a women deliver young leader, and I also have my own initiative called Women in Collaborative Action, where I focus on connecting women from Global South to Global North. The more I say is the less of what a rewarding life I've had so far. That has been my journey throughout this whole phase of human rights and development, and what brought me here today. I remember growing up in South Asia. I had seen a different side of the world than I see right now. Growing up, I saw a lot of revolutionary efforts by women. I saw a lot of revolutions by youth back in my country. And while we were very disconnected from what was happening in the West due to a lack of internet around the time I was growing up, now it makes more sense. So just like anyone else, I had a great childhood, and then it got a bit bumpy with some personal traumatic experience. And the more I grew up, the more I see that whatever I went through, all the traumatic experiences, I wasn't the only one to experience it. So when I was at university, I was studying finance for my undergraduate. I came up with an idea that what can I do to fight for the right, to make a platform for everyone who is going through this traumatic experiences. Luckily, I was already an activist with ActionAid in Bangladesh, and I was campaigning in Europe for ActionAid Denmark, and campaigning in Bangkok, in Nepal for a lot of their activities. And that sort of gave me the boost and the confidence to come up with my own platform, my own technological-based solution to fight violence against women. While I was very young, it was sort of around 10 years ago, I could not really do much with it. I did get a lot of praises, a lot of compliments. I did win a lot of awards, but I wasn't successful in launching it. My dream actually came true a few years after, when I started working at BRAC, which is the largest nonprofit in the world. And I had won an entrepreneurship competition. It's an internal entrepreneurship pitch. And then there I got to make my prototype. And I actually made women working in the rural area use my application and sort of gathered their data to analyze how things were going on for them. So that's what happened. And then from the field level, I had the opportunity to move to the policy level. And I had moved to the United Nations at Geneva, where I sort of looked at things from a more macro level, whereas I was more used to looking at things from the micro level. And from then, here I am now. I am right now in Canada, a country of diversity, a country of color, and a country of inclusion, especially in the city that I live in right now. And I went to university here. I studied global affairs and public policy at University of Toronto, which opened so many doors for me in the policy landscape, opened doors for me in human rights, in corruption, in development, more in business. So with all these intersectional approaches, that's where landed me where I am right now. I am currently working in the equity, diversity, and inclusion in Toronto, Canada. And what a great place to start. We have so many groups to focus on, so many opportunities to tap, and so many level of the government and the private sector to work with. So my work goes beyond not just the private sector, but the indigenous people, racialized people, people with special needs, and women and youth and immigrants, and just exactly what I was meant to do. So being a finance student, coming from a business background, I sort of find myself enjoying and doing framework, making policies, and interacting with communities in the equity deserving group. And I can't say there is anything more rewarding than this as a job, as a volunteer for me.
Wow, your story is fascinating. It's just incredible what happens when somebody steps out on faith, goes to the other side of the world, and is now a transformative leader in your field. So what initially inspired you to transition from your career in banking at HSBC to engaging with social entrepreneurship and activism, particularly in development and human rights?
Yes, Gertrude. Like I said, I've had a very unconventional move, and but I thought it was only me. But now I've actually met somebody today who was a neuroscience student, and they are now working in accessibility and disability inclusion. So I would say that I think it is becoming more common with time for people to come from a very unconventional background to sort of see the change in the society. So, well, of course, my story is the same, and I was an activist at ActionAid, as I mentioned, and campaigned around the world since undergrad. So I was very attached to the idea of volunteerism and human rights and the revolutions happening in the world, especially around me. There were so many youth that were inspiring me, and there were so many examples. So I felt like, what am I doing? So I was especially affected with how gender equality was forming and how taxes were playing and how the entire transition was happening from the Millennium Development Goals to the Sustainable Development Goals around that time. So, and as I was a part of sort of designing these SDGs from all these youth groups, I wanted to see a tangible change with my eyes. And I ended up moving to the development sector from the banking sector, which was great, but I just needed to see the change and I just needed to be the flag bearer of it.
Yeah, there's that quote, be the change you want to see in the world. You literally decided to jump in and be in the forefront of everything that's going on in the world, which is just fantastic. So during your time with the Urban Development Program in Bangladesh, could you share any project or initiative that was particularly impactful and meaningful to you?
Yes, for sure. While I have had many jobs, I think that job sort of had been my dream job, where I spent a lot of time. I spent 3.5 years doing that work, and I've had many favorite projects. And as the work we did was really close to my heart and the passion that I had envisioned. So I would say that the work I did at the BRAC level and UN was very different. And the joy of working in BRAC, in the Urban Development Program, is you get to experience it in the community and see the change, hold the change. You go meet with your project participants, you be a part of designing. I would say my most favorite moment at the Urban Development Program was when I would go visit the communities and plan with them on making their dream homes. It was a project that we called low-cost climate resilient urban housing, and the loan was only being given to the women leaders of the houses. So we would go in the community with the architects, sit down with the families and design the homes with them. And then they would apply for the loans. And then a few months after we would go and we would see their the low-cost climate resilient homes, because as you may know already that some part of Bangladesh are also very disaster prone and are really affected by the climate change, and a lot of it actually goes under the water in for the majority time of the year. So we've had a lot of cases where a lot of women were dying on their way to the hospital or while they were in labor. So just going there a few months after planning with them to see their homes, and also to see the entire community getting an entire infrastructure, not with just the houses, but also the roads in front of the houses. And when they would come to you and say like, oh, remember last time you took my photo and then you got this fund for our road, now we have this road and the house. I think that was the most rewarding experience for me.
Yeah, you could actually see the results of your efforts firsthand, whereas a lot of people don't get to do that.
Yeah.
That's just fascinating.
Yeah.
So working in the areas of equity, religious freedom, and minority rights presents very unique challenges. Mm-hmm. Can you discuss a significant challenge that you faced in these areas and how you addressed it?
Yeah. While diversity is addressed through policies, what becomes really difficult is addressing the intersectionality with it. And we have policies for women, and some places we have policies for racialized employees, for example. But what happens when there is a racialized female employee, right? So you go into all these steps of diversity and equity and inclusion. And I always love saying it that a lot of us, we say gender equality, but I think what's more pressing is gender equity. Honestly, equity for everybody, because equity and equality only differs when you give a tailored platform for somebody to sort of enable them to perform at their best capacity. I've recently had the opportunity to work on an anti-Black racism framework for a municipal level government. And then we realized that some experiences of these equity deserving groups come with intergenerational trauma, lived experiences, and are ongoing. And while it takes months to design these policies and framework, identifying and measuring how much of it gets done is the most crucial part. And it always gets the more you get into the system, the slower it gets. With each level of intervention in the government, municipal, and provincial level. And I'm lucky to have worked in this sector where we have tools. Right now, my organization offers a tool called Diversity Assessment Tools. And we do have some publicly available specifications and some technical specification that has measurement and tracking of this diversity efforts. I would say the last thing, that data is also quite crucial. Data plays a big role in sort of addressing these EDIA challenges, and how we use disaggregated data is also very crucial.
With your extensive background in policy and research, how do you approach influencing policy changes at both local and global level?
Yeah, it has to be done in every level. In my experience, what has been the case is that it gets difficult as we move higher up, and which is intervening with the government, and it gets slower. And I think what really has helped is seeing diversity and how it has approached the policy decisions and the policy moves on a provincial and national and even global level. Toronto now has a racialized mayor, and we have seen changes in the parliament as well. And there are statistics that when one person represents a certain group, there is higher credibility for it to the service recipients and clients. So whether it's the private sector or whether it's in the government level, I think having a diverse workforce and community really helps. In designing policies, having those intersectional lenses are very important, whether it's housing policies or HR policies for mothers at work. So women don't have to suffer a motherhood penalty. And on a global scale, organizations, especially multinationals, have a greater role to sort of influence this policy, especially the ones that are existent in countries around the world. They play a vital role in creating these policies and sort of like creating a top-down approach on how they pass it on to their other operating countries. And obviously, they have to be mandated by civil society organizations like the UN.
So, as the president of JCI Toronto, what strategies have you found effective in engaging and mobilizing youth for social change?
Yeah, I think what's important is to understand is also the diversity of this youth or these members. While some are students are looking for public speaking and debate capacities, rest are looking for career progression. Some things still come in common, such as leadership development and networking. And for what everyone cares about in networking and volunteering roles, it's lifting the community. So I'm very fortunate that in our chapter, we have trainers, educators who train and raise the rest of us. And we also seek out community partnerships where we can support the rest of us. So we seek out partners in health equity. We seek out partners in the rural level. We seek out partners who gives us career fair and helps us grow in leadership capacity. And some examples could be we just have had a financial literacy workshop for the members where we talked about everyone's personal growth. Whereas we've also gone to Alberta last year and we actually worked with the potato farmers in their harvest. So finding everyone's true interest is what we really focus on, and it sort of helps us in mobilizing and makes it self-rewarding for everybody.
So, in your day-to-day life, how do you advocate for women's leadership and empowerment in traditionally male-dominated fields?
In terms of advocating for women's leadership and empowerment, the narratives keep changing. And I feel like the way I could speak about it 10 years ago is very different than how I see it now and approach it now. Something I would really have to start off with is leaky pipeline. And that's something that I have come across while my work in recent days. And that is women and girls starting to have a lower confidence from earlier days in their life. And they do not participate in jobs or studies that require driving, maths, designing, etc. And worse, what I've learned now that what if you're actually good at your job and then you're being called to bossy or sassy, and all these compliments that we get on everyday basis are actually microaggressions rather than just coming out as compliments. I think what I've done really well lately is that being able to discern and to call out, especially on these microaggressions, and asking everyone to be respectful and doing what I can do as on an individual level, promoting women and their success and their work in my network and connecting them to what they need. And also, as I mentioned before, connecting not just women to their success and to their linkage, but also connecting women from the global north to the global south and sort of create a whole sense of allyship and exchange.
So, innovation for social change. You've expressed a desire to bring about revolutionary change through technology and innovation. Can you give an example of how you envisage technology playing a role in addressing global social issues?
Yes, and this sort of goes back to what I said, that something I had come up with 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, when I was 11 years ago almost. So I was very young and naive, and I sort of designed a helpline and a mobile phone application that could support women during violence. And I named it First Lady, and I had the opportunity to pitch it at the Nobel Peace Prize Committee and the Nobel Peace Center. And I got a lot of recognition for it. But unfortunately, I could not launch it at that time because I was too young. And then I sort of got to like launch it as a prototype as a later time. But having that invasion in my mind at that time is that technology back in that time was a big challenge. And what really saddens me now is it's still the same challenge for some women. I remember when I was designing my app and I was like, oh, most people, most women in the rural community don't really have access to smartphones. So I really had to add in features for basic phones. But now I see 10 years down the line, it's pretty much the same. And helping rural women adapt to technology and make them feel that they have the whole world to help. They can access something like ChatGPT, even healthcare, financial services, all in their hands. Just sort of giving that technological education to adopt to this basic level services is something I would really is a point I would really like to start with. And it's not just helping one woman, it's creating community leaders so they can uplift one another and can really leverage this whole technological revolution that we're having around us.
Yeah, technology can be a game changer in any arena, and it's really beautiful to see you applying it to social change. So, how has your education, particularly from Monk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy at the University of Toronto, shaped your approach to tackling the world's most pressing issues?
Yeah, monk school was interesting for my master's. Like I said, I've had a really sort of a different move. I was a finance student before during my undergrad, and then I moved to monk school and I studied global affairs and policies. And it was interesting because it gave political eyes to the eyes of a development practitioner. So I sort of worked at I had worked at BRAC for 3.5 years before I joined my program at Monk. And then I was also working at the UN at that time. And I actually learned how human rights and development issues are better tackled with the right policies and who makes these policies and theories and what makes them come true. And it gave me the opportunity to connect with political leaders and to learn their approach of doing things, interviewing them, spending time with them, and just sort of understanding and connecting to the level that, well, we all want to see change, just that approach is different from the eyes of a development practitioner and a politician.
So, from your perspective, what are the emerging trends or changes in diversity and inclusion that organizations should be prepared for?
A recent thing that I've been reading a lot and working on a lot is the perspectives of generations of and how they want to see their workplaces. So I think what really fascinates me is the Gen Z perspective, which is a really great way of looking into how workplaces are designed, and they are very important. And most of these people only want to work for organizations who understands flexibility and inclusivity and promotes the true rights, that promotes the true human rights, and offering a good package to new mothers, and in fact retaining older staff. So also, other than this Gen Z population entering workforce and demanding the changing landscape in workforce. Yeah, I think what has been really interesting is to see how there has been an emerging trend of Gen Z joining the workforce and sort of demanding a different workspace, a work environment. And Gen Z perspectives are very important. And most of these people only want to work for organizations who understands the flexibility, the need, the inclusivity, and counts in all their voices and provides this opportunity. So whether it's offering a good package to the new mothers and in fact retaining older staff. And another emerging trend that has been really fascinating to see is the generational divide in workplace and how it's getting tougher because you have all these leadership and management positions with millenniums and a lot of people who are let's say above 50, above 60, and then you have these Gen Zs working in this workforces. And I think that's a challenge organizations have to meet with their policies.
Mhm. Yeah, it's just quite interesting when you see those two worlds clashing.
Yeah.
Coming together. So my last question for you is, looking ahead, what is one goal or aspiration that you are most passionate about achieving in your career? And how do you plan to accomplish it?
I remember during my visit in Rwanda last year, someone in a session said that we women are filtered from the inside and sanctioned from the outside, and that really hit me. And I feel like I, as a woman, I want to create stronger community, and especially stronger women, despite of the limitations they may have, whether it's accessibility needs, whether it's lack of sanitation needs, whether it's lack of sexual and reproductive health and rights. And the leaders should not only be in the parliament, but they should rather be in every homes, in every low-income settlements, and so they pull all their communities up higher. And I believe what you said before in your TED talk, Gertrude, that I am because we are. And I want opportunities not just for myself, but I want opportunities for all, for the world to watch us lead with confidence.
That is just beautiful. Beautiful way to end our interview. Thank you so much for coming online and sharing your story with us today. Your work is inspiring to see a young woman who's out there in the world being the change she wants to see in the world. Please keep it up. Do not tire. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gertrude. I appreciate it.
And thank you to everybody who's tuned in today. The Diversity Connector is giving you voices and stories of people from all over the world, movers and shakers, sharing their space and what they are doing. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and bye for now. Thanks again for the interview. And that's a wrap, everybody, on today's episode of the Diversity Connector podcast. Thank you for tuning in and being part of our vibrant and global conversation. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a tapestry of diverse perspectives. Remember, every story you've heard today is a thread in the larger fabric of our shared humanity. So, as you step back into your world, carry these stories with you and let them inspire you to embrace and celebrate the rich diversity around us. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these inspiring stories with more listeners. Do follow us on social media by looking for the Diversity Connector podcast for more updates. Until then, keep connecting, keep listening, and keep celebrating the beauty of diversity. This is the Diversity Connector podcast signing off. Stay curious, stay open, and definitely stay connected.